Welcome back. This is our second video. In the first video, we added integers with the same sign. Today, we're going to work on adding integers with different signs. That means one of the integers is positive, the other integer is negative. There are a few ways to do this. The first way is we can add them using a number line. So model each sum on the number line. Okay. Just remember that if we're going to add a negative number, we hop to the left. If we're going to add a positive number, we hop to the right. So it says model 4 plus -3. So we start at 4. You always start at your first number, and our first number here is 4. So we start at 4 on the number line, and we're going to add -3. That means we're going to go 3 units to the left. 1, 2, 3. We end up at 1, which means that 4 plus -3 is 1. Sorry for the poor handwriting. I'm working on my handwriting. All right. B, model -7 plus 5. Okay, this means we start at -7. We start at the first number, and we're going to move 5 units to the right since we're adding a positive number in there. Okay, or in the positive direction. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. After 5 skips, we end up at -2, which means -7 plus 5 is -2. And then part C says model 6 plus -6. So we're going to start at +6. Always start at the first number. We're going to move 6 units to the left since we have a -6, or in the negative direction. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we end up at 0, which means 6 plus -6 is 0. So that's our first method, is using a number line. Our second method for adding integers with different signs is using counters. Remember, counters are those little circles that one side stands for positive, the yellow side in this case will stand for positive, and the red side will stand for negative. Okay, so we're going to add 3 plus -2 using counters. Okay, we're going to start with however many counters we have in that first number, which is a 3. So we need to start with 3 positive counters. So I'm going to draw 3 counters. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're adding in 2 negative counters. We're in -2. So I grab my red, and I do 2 negative counters. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, because a -1 and a +1 cancel each other out. If you owe somebody $1 and you give them $1, you guys are even. Okay, so that's why a negative and a positive cancel each other out. So I can cancel out one negative for one positive. Well, I have 1 negative, 1 positive here. I have 1 negative, 1 positive here. Okay, and there's no more counters that I can cancel out. So what's remaining is my total, is what's left over after I do 3 plus -2. And that means that 3 plus -2 leaves me with 1 positive counter, so my answer is 1. We're going to take a look at another example with one using counters. All right, we're going to add -6 plus 4 using counters. So I always start with what my first number is. My first number is a -6. That means I'm going to have to put in 6 negative counters, or 6 red counters. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. My second step is now I'm going to add in 4 positive counters, because I'm adding 4 to -6. So I get my yellow color ready, and I do 1, 2, 3, 4, and I always try to line them up that way. It's easy to kind of cancel them out because you can see one matches up with the other. Okay, my third step is to now cancel out some of my counters. For every one positive, I can cancel out a negative. Well, there's one positive, one negative. There's one positive, one negative. There. What I'm left with is 2 red counters or 2 negative counters, so my answer is -2. Okay, this is a pretty easy way to do it. Problem comes in when you start to add really big numbers. You're not going to draw 100 counters. Okay, so we have a faster, easier way to do this. And that's our third method. All right, so our third method, and the one I definitely find the easiest, is that when we add integers with different signs, we can actually just subtract their absolute values and keep the sign of the larger number. For example, we have 7 plus -18. Okay, so what we can actually do is we can just subtract the absolute value. Remember, the absolute value is how far something is away from 0. The absolute value of 7 is 7. The absolute value of 18 is 18. So what we can actually do is 18 minus 7, which is 11. And then we keep the sign of the bigger absolute value. Well, 18 is bigger than 7, and 18 has a negative, so my answer is -11. Okay, the easy way to think about it is subtract, keep the sign of the bigger number. Okay, if you just remember that rule, subtract, keep the sign of the bigger number, you will be able to subtract these very quickly. Okay, let's take a look at another example. Our examples, we want to add -11 plus 4. So first we start off by subtracting the absolute values. So we're going to subtract 11 minus 4, okay, which is 7. Okay, step 2, determine the sign. We keep the sign of whatever number has the greater absolute value. 11 is bigger than 4, so we're going to keep the sign that 11 has. 11 has a negative, so my answer is actually going to be -7. So subtract 11 minus 4, keep the sign of the greater absolute value. The greater absolute value is 11, well, -11, so I keep the negative sign. So my answer is -7. Pause the video, try the section, and your turn, come back to me, and check your answers. So let's take a look at this. Okay, let's look at number 7. -51 plus 23. My signs are different, so I subtract my absolute values. So always take my smaller number away from my bigger number. So I do 51 minus 23. Gotta borrow. I get 28. 51 is bigger than 23, so I keep the sign that's with 51. So it's -28. Let's look at, let me number that. Let's look at number 8. We have 10 plus -18. So I subtract my absolute values. So I'd start with 18 minus 10. Always put the larger number on top. 18 minus 10 is 8. And then I look at my numbers. 18 is bigger than 10, so I keep the sign that's with 18, which is a negative. So my answer is a -8. Number 9. I have 13 plus -13. So I do 13 minus 13, which is 0. I don't have to touch any time the sign to 0 because 0 is neither positive nor negative, so my answer is just 0. And last but not least, number 10. 25 plus -26. I do 26 minus 25, which is 1. 26 is bigger than 25, so I look at the sign that 26 has, which is a negative sign. That means my answer is -1. Okay, guys, it's that simple. Subtract, keep the sign of whatever number has the largest absolute value, or whatever number is bigger. Okay, I hope this makes sense. Please ask me any questions you have, leave it in the comments, or do whatever you have to do.